Let's cross over to Ediz Tianshan. He's in Idlib province, inside Syria, and he joins us now live. Ediz, what are the latest developments then? It seems like the evacuations have been postponed yet again.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, there's also renewed clashes on the ground where we are right now in Syria's northern Idlib province. We were headed towards that evacuation point in western Aleppo when we were stopped on the road because we heard just a few kilometers ahead of us there were clashes again on the ground. And in fact, some of these fighters have just returned from that fire line. As you see, they have their anti-aircraft fighters on their pickups, and there are others who are also in other vehicles. They're not necessarily showing their faces for security purposes, but they could confirm to you that there is again fighting on the ground occasionally, and we can also see some of them in ambulances being brought to the nearby crossing point to be treated inside Turkey. Now, on top of the clashes, unfortunately, what's worrying even more is that latest explosion that took place just at that point where civilians are brought out of the enclave before they are shipped to western Aleppo or Idlib to their next destination. And we understand that the activists are saying that the explosion took place in a car park where dozens of buses are usually waiting to take these civilians. We don't know at this point who exactly is behind the attack, but there's also a second hindrance, I think, to these evacuations. On the main road just outside of the enclave, we hear that there are also dozens of pro-regime protesters that are demanding two more towns, Foa and Kafria, in the Idlib province to be simultaneously evacuated. Now, those pockets of areas are also under siege, but this time by rebel groups. And we understand that the Shia rebels are mostly Shia rebels, and pro-regime forces are stuck in those enclaves. So it seems that we are facing two problems. One, an unidentified explosion. We don't know who's behind it at the exact point where the evacuation is happening, and also protests on that main road where the evacuation is supposed to take place, and we don't know when and if the evacuations can resume.
So, Ediz, you say there we don't know who's behind the attack. Which groups would have a vested interest in sabotaging the evacuation and seeing this deal fail?
Well, we know from the previous attempts to evacuate those civilians, the first two attempts were unsuccessful. The first convoy that tried to leave on Tuesday night, remember, was turned back by mostly pro-regime allied Shia militia. We're talking about the Iranian-backed Shia militia on the ground. And a second attempt on Wednesday night as well. This time actually came under fire, and one person was killed, 3 more were injured. And after extensive talks with Iran, they finally managed to resume these talks. But remember that this very same demand, the evacuation of Foa and Kafria, was also a proposition put forward by Iran. So at this point, the only actor that we know who is against this evacuation plan is Iran itself. But we cannot say for sure whether these protests or this explosion, for that matter, are also carried out by Iran. That is very hard to say at this point.
And indeed, you are there in Idlib, as you say, which is the destination for many of the evacuees. What awaits them when they get to where you are?
Well, unfortunately, it's not going to be an easy task. As you see, the weather conditions are quite cold. And remember that we are talking about tens of thousands of internally displaced people. Now, for now, we also see dozens of trucks that are being prepared just nearby at the Turkish side. These people will initially get the very basic necessities, food and medical supplies. But as to where they will stay is really a question mark for many of them. Mostly they will be placed into the pre-existing refugee camps that are also mostly in Idlib province where we are. But some others, in case there's not enough space for them, Turkey Turkey expressed its willingness to build a new refugee camp. We've just heard from the president of Turkish Red Crescent Society this morning that they could accommodate 10,000 more tents in a new refugee camp. But other than that, if there's still no space, Turkey also said that they could also open its doors to more Syrians on top of the 3 million they already have.
Okay, Adiz, thank you.